Hello, g'day, Bujari Kamara, Kia ora, and welcome back to the final session of Industry Connect at Torrens University Think Education and Media Design School. I'm Associate Professor Simon Pawson, Associate Dean, Hotel Management, Hospitality, Tourism, Events and Culinary at Torrens University, Australia. Well, it's been an incredibly exciting and engaging at today's Industry Connect event. And how fabulous does it feel to be back in person and on campus for this year's event? We kicked Industry Connection off this morning, hearing from the incredible and inspiring Dr. Daniel Noor, founder of Streetside Medics and the 2022 Young Australian of the Year, who is doing incredible work to combat some of the significant barriers, difficulties and limitations to accessing healthcare for some, especially the 116,000 people currently experiencing homelessness. Then our students and alumni had the opportunity to connect with industry partners and exhibitors on our various campuses across Australia to make connections, ask their burning questions and to build their networks. Participants also had the opportunity to hear from key industry partners live during our Torrens talk sessions at our campus. At Torrens University Australia, our success is truly grounded in your study and career achievements, our industry partnerships and our high-profile alumni. I am absolutely convinced that your learnings, your industry achievements and what you leave Torrens University with equips you to make a substantive, positive difference in the lives of others. And now you're going to hear more about this through the voices of 4 of our alumni and current students. I am so thrilled to welcome you to the last session of the day, Industry Connected, and the future of work in action with our alumni. In today's session, we will explore what does the short and long-term future look like after finishing your studies? How can our students prepare themselves now and connect with industry for a successful transition to industry? And what does the future of work look like in a post-pandemic world? Today we will be joined by a panel of some of our star alumni from Torrens University who are establishing their journey in industry and are champions of industry in their own right. We will bring together the highlights over the amazing sessions presented by our industry experts, and our Rockstar alumni panel will share their unique insights from their student journey and from their introduction and immersion into industry. As you have been throughout the day, keep interactively coming. Submit your questions if you are in Brisbane, Melbourne or Adelaide using the QR code. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our incredible alumni speakers this afternoon. Firstly, we have Vianney. I wish to welcome you, Vianney, to this afternoon's session. Vianney, who is one of our esteemed alumni from the business faculty. Vianney is a management consultant at Collagis, an Australian management consultancy, with his Master of Business Administration, Advanced MBAA from Torrens University. You may recognise him from the official opening of our Surrey Hills campus in April, where he spoke alongside the Honourable Alistair Henskins, former Minister of Skills and Training, the Minister of Science, Innovation and Technology and the Leader of the House in the Legislative Assembly and other alumni and students. Vianney is a dynamic business leader and result-orientated professional accustomed to developing projects in agile, fast-paced and deadlines-focused team environments. After recently completing a consulting project with Australian Defence, he says he always tries to use his leadership and teamwork skills to continually learn and evolve. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Vianney. Next, we have Scott Bear. Scott, welcome. Scott is one of our Blue Mountains International Hotel Management School alumni from the class of 2017, and he is the current front office manager at Sofitel, Darling Harbour, Sydney, as well as a stellar career in hospitality since graduating in 2017. He has been a member of the Blue Mountains International Hotel Management School Alumni Board since 2021 and is Blue Mountains International Hotel Management School's Alumni of the Year for 2020. Scott is a dedicated supporter of charitable fundraising initiatives, encouraging work colleagues and friends to participate and support wherever they can. Camp Quality, Bill Cruz Foundation, September, Movember Dress for Success, and the Sony Foundation, just to name a few. Scott, welcome. Next we have Angie Ussher. Angie, welcome this afternoon. A current Master of Education, special education student, Angie has a demanding schedule, homeschooling all her three children under COVID-19 restrictions, as well as teaching full-time at her music studio whilst balancing that workload with her master's studies. Angie says she took on this course on top of everything else because she wanted to do better at her job and to help more people, especially those with special needs. So lovely to have you with us this afternoon, Angie. Also joining us on the panel is interior designer Emma Gårdh. Emma, welcome. In 2000, Emma is from Sweden, and prior to moving to Australia, she worked in Stockholm as an interior stylist for two of Sweden's most recognised design firms. In 2019, Emma moved to Australia to study a Bachelor of Interior Design at Billy Blue College of Design to further complement her experience and develop her understanding of interior and architecture. She describes her design language as very Scandinavian, encompassing a neutral and earthly colour palette, characterised by simplicity, minimalism and functionality, and she thrives by creating environments for people and designing spaces that have both aesthetics and functionality. Welcome, Emma. Lastly, we have Ian Gonzaga. Ian, welcome. Ian is a Southern School of Natural Therapies alumni and current clinical services product manager at the Blackmores Group. After graduating from SSNT with a Bachelor of Health Science in Nutritional Medicine, Ian says he really can't believe where it's taken him. From performer to a career in the health industry, Ian's passion and knowledge for nutritional medicine stems from his background as a performer, where he wanted to ensure he was taking the best care of himself to support a physically strenuous job. Ian is passionate about helping people and wants to pass on his knowledge. He wants to eventually manage a product range which helps people achieve their best in their endeavours. Welcome Ian again, and thank you for joining us. So let's give a big hand to all our panel this afternoon. Now, just a reminder for those who are joining us online, please do send your questions using the QR code, and we'll aim to get to them shortly. Today, our students have been meeting and greeting industry. For some, this might be the very beginning of their career. For others, they could be embarking on a career switch. All of you here on the panel with us today have been on this journey once yourselves, starting out with your studies with us. I'd like now to invite all of you, so I'm sort of going back in a time machine, but that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go back in time. The first question, and I think this is a really, really important question to ask. When you reflect on your studies, so on your learnings throughout your courses, what were the most important lessons and learnings? So what has really resonated with you that you've taken away from the university and carried forward into industry? And Vianney, how about we start with yourself?
Sure. Look, that's a very interesting question. There's many lessons learned throughout my degree at Torrens. I guess the main one that, and it's big advice that I'm giving to everyone as well, is mastering your communication skills and your presentation. I think this is something that will help you to succeed in the workplace. I've seen so many people with poor communication skills and struggling in the workplace, especially after the degrees. So keep mastering your communication skills. I think, and you've probably been maybe a little bit annoyed about that when you started your first week at Torrens. Probably many lecturers ask you, where are you from? What degree are you studying? Hundreds of times. It's actually a good exercise that will help you in the future with your future employees. So take this very seriously. And I guess the other massive learning that I took from my degree at Torrens is not to be afraid to ask for help. I guess everyone need help at some point, whether it is with your studies or personal life or social life. Ask for help. And I think the COVID-19 really helped for students and for universities to understand that. So please raise your hand if you need help.
And certainly, I think from the teaching perspective and the administrative perspective of the university, we love students, we want to help them, but really they have to take the first step, and it's putting up your hand, reaching out. So that certainly makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Angie, what about yourself?
So I'm currently studying, but I agree there. Asking for help is one of the biggest things that I've learned in this degree. So I've previously studied a Bachelor of Music, so it was a bit different. But when I've gone to Masters of Education, I've gone to a more, I guess, theoretical-based learning, and that was not something I was used to. I was very practical. So everything I did was a practical thing, and then you just had to write about it. So I was a little bit nervous, I guess, with the first kind of subjects. But I raised that with my lecturers, and I mean, we've got students all over the world, so I wasn't the only one who had these issues. But I found that letting them know right at the start, they then help and build that into the weekly classes. So we haven't just learnt our matters about our subject, we've learnt how to write academically, how to research academically, and how to use that in your workplace now. So currently, for example, I'm teaching music through my home studio, but studying special education, I'm able to then implement that straight away into it. And if I have a question, about workplace and all of that, we can then ask the lecturer how to implement that into our lives straight away. I think teaching, I guess, allows for that. It's a bit different with other subjects, but I found, definitely asking for help is a big thing that works at Torrens. They're very, very helpful.
Using your experience and expertise, let me just tease that out a little bit, and I'll give you a scenario.
Okay.
We just assume we have a class of 30 or 40 students, and of course we've got students who are extroverted who have no problem putting up their hand and saying, hey, I've got a question, I need some help. But what advice would you give to students who are a little bit more shy and nervous about asking that burning question or reaching out and seeking help? So what advice would you have for them?
I guess it depends on the age of the students as well. So with mine, I've got a lot of personal one-on-one or group students being a music teacher, but I've always had, and even in larger groups, I've always offered my email and different ways that people can speak to me individually. So it doesn't always have to be in front of the class. I know when I was at school, I probably wouldn't have raised my hand to ask a question. And it hasn't been, I think, until probably the pandemic hit, that I probably had that confidence to do that. Because, we were hit with so many different things all at once. The only way to cope was to ask for help.
Great, thanks. Great answer, and thank you for that. Scott, your program was a very intense program. You spent the first 2 years in a residential environment, and then the third year was spent at the Sydney campus for Blue Mountains. Certainly you learnt a lot over that 2.5 year period, but for you, what were the highlights? What were the takeaways that you could literally hit the ground running with once you left the school?
Yeah, I think the most obvious benefit of studying with Blue Mountains and at Torrens was the practical aspect of it all. Sitting here now as someone who recruits within the industry, having that practical aspect before you enter the industry is a massive bonus, very appealing to employers. So I think making the most of that learning through those the 3 months at a time, practical journeys of the front office and the food and beverage and housekeeping, and really immersing yourself in asking questions and relating it back to industry was a massive thing that benefited me in my success moving forward, because you look at other universities that you kind of look at when you go to study hospitality and it's all very lecture based, whereas the hands-on kind of side gives you that first-hand perspective of what it's like in the industry. So you step out of studying and it's like you've been doing the job for a year already. So it's that I guess, preparation for the industry was the biggest bonus of studying at Torrens, yeah.
And now that you're in industry and doing very well in industry and part of the school's alumni, how do you see yourself as alumni being able to give back to current students? So what are some of the opportunities that alumni are able to offer?
Yeah, I mean, there's people in this lecture theatre alone that I've hired from the hotel school is all about the alumni and allows that kind of relationship to be built. I was able to go overseas to London because of the alumni kind of connections, and you know, my next opportunity could be provided by an alumni of the school, just because of the connections that you have within the industry. Wherever you go, no matter what city, there's someone in Blue Mountains that's sitting in the hotel ready to check you in or serve you breakfast, and yeah, it's quite special, that kind of side of it.
Great, thanks Scott. Emma, we're going to have to talk because I'm a big fan of mid-century modern design. And of course, a lot of that movement originated in Scandinavia. But from your particular course and time at the university, what were the takeaways? What were you able to really hit the ground running with?
What I found really important, especially in the design industry, was definitely connections that you have to have. So especially for Billy Blue, because a lot of the lecturers are actually designers or architects or interior designers, even graphic designers. So really to sort of build those relationships early on are very important for your future career as a designer. So that's one of the aspects. And then also your work that you're doing, because all of your assignments and projects, something that you also will show up in a portfolio later on when you apply for jobs. So really those two sort of factors, the relationships, but also to really take time and do all your projects very sort of thought through, because you will definitely use all of those skills and portfolios later on.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Ian, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts. Okay, so for me, the major highlight was finishing. But the thing is, it was like climbing such a bigger mountain, right? As Scott was saying, like there's a major practical aspect at the end of a health degree, right? Where you have to do your exit exam, and that's all practical and stuff. And all I remember doing, preparing for the exam and doing the exam, was my stress levels were like peaking, like so high that by the end of it, I was just like, thank God, I did it, kind of thing. And that's the thing, it's kind of just knowing that you have been prepared by the uni, all your lecturers, all of your peers, everything that you've been doing up till that point has been preparing you for this massive exit exam. And you can do it, it just feels like it's probably going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life up until that point, and it was for me up until that point. But yeah, it was definitely a highlight for me when I finished alongside my other peers who finished at the same time, finishing that OSCE, the exit exam, and just massive sigh of relief and thinking, climb that huge mountain, all right, what's on the horizon? Yeah.
Which I think leads me nicely, and you're not aware of this question, but listening to all of your responses, I think I really need to ask this question. When I was driving home yesterday, I was listening to an interview on Triple J, and they were interviewing a learning advisor from University of Queensland, and this particular person helps students with things like time management, how not to procrastinate and so on. Now, there's no doubt about it, in today's world, everybody who's a student is juggling work commitments, home commitments, downtime, social commitments, and study. So, moving through your particular programs and from your experience, how did you successfully do this? So how did you navigate through the complexities of giving literally all you had to your studies, but also balancing everything else that was going on and still coming out on top at the end? So Ian, let's kick off with you, because you're on a bit of a roll there.
Sure. I think definitely connecting with the classes. I mean, back then, the online environment wasn't as a big of a focus. Yes, there was an online component to it, but I would say like 90% of my studies were done face-to-face. And so actually committing to going to those classes and being present, not just going there, actually being present, interacting with everyone, interacting with the lecturers, is really, really important. And then after that, definitely setting aside some time. I was working part-time at the same time as studying, of course, and so, it was just making sure that I was able to still block in my study time around the part-time work, while still, doing all the things and heading to my lectures and making sure I was attending. Yeah, just trying to stay organised like that, like blocking out time for study, for work, and then, of course, play. That's very important. You can't forget about your playtime. But yeah, just, at times it would change as well, but just knowing that you have those, 3 or 4 pillars that you've really got to balance and take care of.
And did you find that skill has helped with your career, being able to do that and master that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not a master of blocking out my time just yet, although it has helped. And I think for me, colours in your calendar really, really help. So if you can do that, say you're doing 4 different units or something, you've got one colour for each unit, and that is your lecture, and then you spend another hour of that colour doing, your assignments or whatever, and then another colours for another unit, another colours for another unit. So you can visually see how much you're committing to things, and you can visually see how much you're maybe not committing to things, and so you might need more of that colour sometimes, just so you can visually see for yourself, where you are spending more time or where you're not spending time or enough time.
Some great ideas there. I might even use that. Thank you.
Colour's great.
Angie, over to you.
I use the Success Coach service or system, I'm not sure what it is. So I speak regularly with Angela Wilson. So we check in a couple of times per trimester to just check that I'm on track, if there's anything that I need additional help with. And I found that really beneficial, knowing that I've got that person there for support if I need it. And I didn't have her the first time around, and I struggled a little bit. And I guess it just holds me that little bit more accountable when I know that I'm going to check in with someone. She's going to ask me how X, Y, and Z are going. And yeah, I find that really helpful to use the Success Coaches.
And I've got to say, Angie, I have the pleasure of working closely with Success Coaches in hospitality and business. And our Success Coach team, which is led by Mark Sweet and Gareth Main, are absolute rock stars. Their dedication towards supporting students, not only with their studies and helping them with things like time management, but also to get them off on the right foot for their careers. They're just an amazing, amazing bunch of people.
Yeah, there's so many services. So it can be resume building, it can be anything. It can be, time management, it can be how to approach your lecturers if you don't have that confidence. But no, I would recommend them to everyone, regardless of what stage in the degree you are. Like I'm getting close to halfway now, and I'm not going to get rid of her. If she's prepared to work with me till the end, she's mine.
And
Yeah.
that's wonderful to hear that feedback about our success coaches. So if you haven't engaged with our success coaches, take the opportunity to do so. You've heard it firsthand as to how helpful they can be. Now, Emma, time management. What did you do?
What did I do? Well, I thought it was sort of easy to deal with all the projects and sort of set time aside for each assignment. But definitely, if it was more sort of complex things, definitely take help from my study buddy. Yeah. That's probably what I would say. Because especially for architecture, it's quite complex sort of programs such as Revit or 3ds Max. So really use your peers to help you here, because otherwise you will spend up so much time for something that's so easy for someone already solved it. So use your friends, your students, and also the lecturers to help you to not spend time on unnecessary things.
Great advice. Thank you. Scott?
I probably wasn't a good example of time management at uni. I dedicated probably too much to the degree itself and also work outside of the degree. And missed that third chapter of the play. And I think that's probably the most important at university. It's not really spoken about as much, but it's the connection building that you have, and it's the relationships that you build with your peers, because they're going to be the ones in the industry with you in 5-10 years. I used to travel down to Sydney every weekend to work at the Park Hyatt as a casual events waiter. So it'd be Friday night, back on Monday morning. You'd miss that whole weekend where people would be studying in their rooms together with their study buddies, and going to the Alex for a beer, and Sublime Point and all those great places. So I think, away from the study side, I think it's really important to have that social aspect, because it does build those connections. And I know, through the little social that I did when I was at uni, I'm still with those people, now, 5 years on from graduating. So use your peers. I think when we were studying during the week, I had 2 people that I'd really go to. They'd bounce off questions that I missed a lecture for. I'd give them questions that they missed one. And you get the full kind of scope of what the degree brings. And I think it's important to bounce off each other.
It's interesting you say that. I'm often in contact with the class of 1991 from the hotel school. And it's amazing how still connected this group of people actually are 31 years later, not only socially, but also in a business context. And it all started essentially at university. That's where it started. So again, great advice. Vianney, over to you.
Look, just echoing what my peers said, time management. I could talk about this for hours, I guess, as a management consultant. But
you're the go-to man then.
I would say a couple of advice, really. If your time management skills are not good yet, they will be, and they will improve significantly over the course of your degree. I guess the biggest advice I can give is planning. Don't be reactive, be proactive. Set time aside to prepare for your assessment, to learn about the classes, the courses. So I guess planning is very important. Again, reaching out to your success coaches if you're struggling with time management is very important. Or feel free to give me a call. We can have a chat as well around that. But planning is very important. So don't be reactive at all. Just be proactive at all time. And remember that when you will have a job in a workplace, you will often be asked to complete projects on time and within budget. So make sure you master your time management skills while at uni, because in the workplace it's another story again.
And reach out to yourself or success coaches if you need help with planning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, we've got a couple more questions before we flick to our audience, because I know some of our students are dying to ask you some questions. But this morning we heard from Dr. Daniel Knorr, who is, as you probably know, 2022's Young Australian of the Year, and we heard about how he actually set up his Streetside Medics, which is just a fantastic organisation, and the work they're doing for homelessness is just beggars belief what he's achieved in such a small space of time. But he shared with us how life events and his education has really shaped his career and where he's arrived at this point. He's only 26 years of age. It was just so inspiring to hear that he's achieved so much. But he really focused on how those life events and how his education have really made him who he is today. So can I ask each of you, how have your life events and how has your time at Torrens really influenced and shaped your careers? But I also want to put another little question in there also. So it's really a two-part question. Was when you started at Torrens, did you have an idea that this is really, or what you're doing now, is really what you wanted to do, or did it change along the way? So sort of two questions rolled into one there. Scott, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think up until 6 months before starting at Torrens, I want to go into medicine field. So it was a bit left wing to go into hospo and go down that path. And I think, yeah, you start in, I guess, 90% of people who start in hospo, they go into hotels and they go, I want to be a GM, I want to be, in charge of a brand, or and that was my vision. Definitely those steps that you need to take, become a department head, run a hotel, and then take those steps to go into corporate kind of side of things. And I think along the way, through the people that you meet within the industry, it kind of changes your perspective on where you want to end up. I've met countless people, I think mainly in the last 6 months through Torrens and through the hotel industry, that kind of gives you a bigger scope for what hotel and tourism is. It's not just working operationally in a hotel, serving guests. It's a much more broader scope than that. And you can go into, hospitality development and into hotels and consultancy and those different pathways. Not many people know about. You don't really speak about it too much when you think hospitality, but now those doors open up because of the people that you meet. And I think that's, possibly a pathway that I'm looking at in the future. But right now, still looking at that operations kind of side of things and that next step. But the door's more open to other pathways than just that sole focus on that one end goal.
So again, probably very transferable skills,
Yeah.
and you're reflecting on your learnings and your time with the university and all those skills and knowledge, how they might transfer into other areas also.
Yeah, definitely. I think hospitality teaches you so many things about people, business of people, and that's in any industry across the world. It's not just restricted to business or medicine. It's any industry, you need to be able to provide good customer service. So I think that in itself, I've seen people who I studied with go into finance and accounts but in customer service facing roles and really thrive within those because of the teachings they learned through the studies. So yeah.
It's really interesting to hear. Thanks, Scott. Emma, let's go to you.
Yeah, well, in terms of knowing what you want to be, I was very certain since I was 14 maybe that I wanted to be an interior designer. And the reason I chose to come to Australia was because we actually don't have any interior design degrees in Sweden, funnily enough. So
That's really hard to believe.
Yeah, I know,
and
it's
I'm
so
thinking, of course, of
strange.
IKEA, which is just a
know,
massive
IKEA.
company. So,
Yeah, so to move to Australia and to start at Billy Blue was definitely a big change, because otherwise I would never be able to become an interior designer. So that was a big thing, at least if you want to live somewhere sunny. And then in terms of, sorry, what was the other question? What
so
was that part?
really, did you change it at all along the way, or have you been
No,
just
that's
committed
sort of
to
very
this?
straight path, yeah, for me.
And was there any, thinking of your career, your education overall,
Yeah.
so, your program, did you find that really, added value to what you're doing now?
Oh, absolutely. For us who works with architecture drawings and so many different projects, you really get all those skills, as in both the sort of the technical skills, but again, also the presentation skills and all those sort of time management, again, all of those sort of things sort of wraps into this whole education at Billy Blue and Torrens. So that's definitely very helpful.
Fantastic. Thanks, Emma. Vianney, what's your thoughts?
Look, funny enough, I wanted to develop my career in aviation. So when I was in high school, I did a degree in aviation. At 16, I was pretty good, I think. I piloted a plane when I was 16 as well. So I I really wanted to go down that path. When I came here, I also wanted to develop my career in aviation. And in fact, during the 2 years of my master degree, I've met someone in Sydney, and we studied I can say an airline company really, but an air service between Melbourne and Griffith in the Riverina region from scratch. So that was pretty impressive project. And basically COVID started, right, as we all know. So I kind of lost my job, and I've always been a critical thinker and a problem solver, and I just loved that. I could do that every day, even probably at night as well. And yeah, I just try to master my skills in problem solving and critical thinking. That led me to become a management consultant. So things have changed a lot. And I guess it's also, I've been able to develop that by talking to industry experts. And I guess a lot of them came through my lectures, who are obviously well connected with industries, and just like basic talks after classes, or just, you know, in some events like today with the industry connect. I think it's just a way to go, and your career development and where you want to go will probably evolve throughout the course of your degree. So big change for me, but I'm happy as being a management consultant now. So, and probably looking forward to get back in aviation and become a private pilot at some point as well.
And Angie, your life experiences, and certainly reading a little bit about your bio and managing sort of home life and study and everything else on top. So how has your life experiences and your program really influenced your career and what you're doing now?
So I guess even prior to studying, I always had the mindset that I wanted to be able to teach, I wanted to be able to teach music, and I wanted it to be accessible for everyone. So regardless of age, ability, any of that type of thing. So my final project for my Bachelor of Music was a community performance where we had, I think, 30 people from ages 6 to 70 do a big Mamma Mia concert. So everyone loved ABBA. So it was great. So there was 3 classes, but it was promoting mental health and all types of different abilities, I guess, because there was physical attributes that we had to work around as well. And then when I finished that, I was like, yep, I'm all good. And then COVID kind of hit, and I'm like, there's still more I need to do. And I didn't know what it was. And then I was diagnosed with a brain tumour at the start of 2021. And I was like, okay, well, this could be a time restriction, or it could be, no, go out and do something else. So because I've got personal experience with children with disabilities, plus mental health through the family, especially after COVID, I was like, no, I think education, special education, is where I want to go. Implementing it only into my own business, and I'm president of our local musical society, so we've become more progressive, I guess, in that sense as well, that we're more open for different abilities. We have members of our current cast of all different abilities, which is great. And I just thought, how can I do that? And I still think it'll be more personal business that I do, but there's other options already opening. So there's been talks of working in schools and helping with individual plans for people with additional needs. So I think careers could change down that way. I definitely want to help the neurodivergent rather than the neurotypical, not because I'm against neurotypical, but I think we've got a lot of resources out there for everyone already, but there's not as much for the neurodiverse. So I guess since starting at Torrens, that's cemented that little bit more, because the subjects I've done, person first, autism, intro to mental health, all of them have just been, oh, I've got experience there, I understand this. So it was just like, yeah, no, this is where I'm going.
You know, I hear that quite often where students really connect with a subject, and that subject itself, so not the overall program,
Yeah.
but the subject, really, connect strongly with them in relation to, I can see a career opening here.
Yeah.
And then they may turn that into a specific postgraduate study and so on. So that's really interesting to hear. So thanks, Angie. And Ian.
Yeah, so for me, I think you mentioned it right at the beginning, Simon, where I had a past life as a performer. And so I was a professional dancer before coming to Torrens and doing my nutritional medicine degree. But I did make the conscious decision to switch it up a little bit and completely go down this different path. And that was purely just from a self-interest in nutrition and, taking care of what you're eating, taking care of your body and, recovery and things like that. Throughout the degree, I absolutely loved all the subjects. I didn't know that I had this massive inner nerd inside me because all the science stuff, I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. I love digging into all this stuff. And getting to know the little mechanisms of actions of vitamins and nutrients and what your body does and cells and blah, blah, blah. All that was really, really cool. But actually, at the end, the massive exam and your final year of practical, I kind of thought to myself, this is not for me. I don't think this is, what I want to do. We're really trained up to do private practice in clinic throughout the degree. But something in me was like, I kind of want to find something else. And in my final year, I saw that one of the natural medicine companies, Bioceuticals, was doing an internship. And so that really interested me. And I approached my lecturers at the time, asking them, I've seen this thing, Bioceuticals internship. Is this something that I could look into? And how do I make it fit into, my final year of practical studies? And so I was lucky enough to join and attend the internship. And that really swung the course for me as to where I wanted to take my skills that I was developing and focus more into this corporate type environment. And so that's how I've ended up here at the Blackmores group as clinical services product manager. And everything that I have learned, I still get to apply and talk about in my current role. And I even get to apply things that I had learnt during performing because there's an education sort of aspect as well. So I said in my little blurb, I like to sort of pass my knowledge on. And so everything that I've learnt from my degree, everything that I am learning currently in my current job, I'm able to, hold education sessions, do webinars and things like that in my role. So everything is kind of rolling into one, but not in that typical sort of space where we're trained during the course.
Now, before we turn to our students and get them to ask you some of their questions, I've just got one final quick question. I think this question's quite important, and it's sort of one of those, it's sort of like speed dating, so we're going to need some very, very sort of precise answers here, and you'll see where I'm getting to shortly. Our university really is all about industry, but the success of the university is built on the success of our students and graduates, and industry plays such an important role, as you all know, in a student's journey. So can I ask you to share 2 pieces of advice to our students who are here with us today or watching us online as to really the importance over their program of connecting with industry, utilising everything the university has to offer about industry. Okay? So 2 pieces of advice. Emma, let's start with you.
Well, I'll probably touch base again on connecting with your lecturers. That's so important. That's actually how I got my job. That was sort of a connection they already had. So one of that, and also do extra internships. It's so important. It's so easy to 2 months, 2 days a week, just sort of get your foot out there and sort of building those connections.
I think that's a really important piece of advice, especially connecting with lecturers. And what continues to impress me is we use this word called pracademics. So lecturers who don't only teach, but they're also very engaged with industry, and their connections with industry are simply amazing. And so that's really the starting point, use their networks because they want to help you.
Yeah,
and they have some amazing industry networks. So great piece of advice. Thanks, Emma. Scott?
Don't underestimate LinkedIn. That's my big one. We don't use Seek anymore. We don't use job sites. We use through connections on LinkedIn, and it's so beneficial. You can see that this person also studied at Blue Mountains Hotel International School, and so you go, okay, well I know the training they've got, and you connect with them, and you can really reach out and understand their qualities, and vice versa. When you're looking for a role, you can look the management up on LinkedIn and see where they've been. And it's not just to post jobs, but also to talk about the industry and see where the industry's going and trends to stay connected in regards to that. And then, same as Emma, I mean, the lecturers and your peers, it's so important to hold on to those connections. And if it's one person in your class or 10 people in your class that you stay close to, it'll prove vital, maybe not 5 years down the track, but 10, 15 when you're looking for a career shift or you're looking to get back into the industry after you've left, and having those connections. I think, the human relationship is so important to the success of anyone's career, and especially in hospitality, just transparently, anyone can really do a check-in. Anyone can serve in a restaurant, but it's the people that that can kind of take you to that next step and provide that next level experience to get you moving in your career.
And really just to leverage off that, part of your socials these days, it's not only Facebook or TikTok and all the others, but LinkedIn should also be very much part of your socials. And, I'm sure that you wouldn't disagree with me that every single one of our students should be working with their success coaches to build their LinkedIn profile. It's absolutely critical for career advancement.
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing how much I'm on LinkedIn compared to like Instagram and Facebook. But
they have to be part of your socials.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really. Vianney, 2 pieces of advice.
Echoing what Scott said. Look, I got my first job. I got my internship as a management consultant through LinkedIn. And only 2 weeks after graduated from my MBA. So I guess building your online presence is just critical. You can't go. If you're looking to find a job, just go through LinkedIn. As Scott said, Seek, Indeed, you can still find a job, but LinkedIn is the way to go. Engage on campus as well. It's very important. Events like today, I think you get to talk to people, even though it's not leading to a job straight away, at least you're building the connection and then you connect with them on LinkedIn. And this is how it works, because you can reach out to them and say, look, we had a good conversation together 2 weeks ago. Can we just connect and have a further chat? This is how it works in the business world. And the last piece of advice, and I'm repeating myself on that, is just mastering your communication skills. To me, that's the critical point for every single student. Just do that and you'll succeed.
Great. Thanks, Vianney. Angie, 2 pieces of advice.
The first one would be not to lose sight of why you're studying. So I have a note in my phone, would be, to why you're studying and why you're studying in that industry. So, my note has goals that I want to hit and goals that I have hit by what time. And it's only something really simple, but again, it holds me accountable. And the other thing is, if you've got the opportunity, kind of like what Emma was saying, if you've got the opportunity to volunteer, to do anything in your field, take it. My whole life has pretty much been volunteering and getting all of that. And everyone was like, oh, why would you do that? You're not getting paid, blah, blah, blah. Well, now I'm in my 30s and I've got all of this experience and able to get so many different things out of my life because of the experience that I've got from that. Not just industry connections, but personal connections. There's so much self-satisfying work that you can do doing that kind of thing and in your field that you love. So, take every opportunity that you can, would be my advice.
Great. Thanks, Angie. And Ian, 2 pieces of advice.
Yeah, so I think I agree with everyone here about the LinkedIn profile, making sure that's nice and sorted out. But if the professional sort of corporate world isn't your thing in the natural healthcare industry, I think definitely looking into the different associations that are out there. As a student, you can get discounted association membership, and they have awesome events and symposiums and seminars where you can really, one, nerd out and learn so much, and two, you're surrounded by your peers. There are so many naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists at these events, right, as well as other companies. So then you can kind of really, nurture your relationships there with your peers and other professionals, even look out for mentorships and things like that, while connecting with the corporate side of things with the different brands in the natural healthcare industry. So LinkedIn and associations, yeah, definitely.
And I think collectively, some great advice this afternoon. Let's now flick to our audience, both in the room and online, because I know they've got some questions for you. And I think in the interest of time, whoever wants to answer the question, feel free to answer the question. And if somebody else wants to jump in, do so. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's your turn now to ask our star panel some questions, industry, study, anything you'd like to know. So, do we have a question, a first question, please? Don't be shy. Aha, we have a question. We'll bring a microphone to you. If you could just introduce yourselves to the panel, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Justin. Do you guys find it difficult to disconnect from work when you're home? Or do you have are you always just switched on, even when you're, relaxing with your family?
I definitely do. And if you ask my family, I don't switch off. So, for example, we stayed in Sydney last night. I woke up, they're all asleep. We're in one hotel room. I'm in the bathroom with my textbook. Yeah. I can't switch off sometimes. This degree has really brought the inner nerd out of me.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with Angie on this one. I've had to force myself to stop working. It's past 5 o'clock, and it's the weekend. You need to do other things, especially now that working from home is a thing. It can be dangerous, and if you have to really check yourself to make sure that you really don't get stuck in that sort of, I guess it's like a hole, a work hole. Just so you've got that balance. Work-life balance is such a big thing now. So I've noticed it, yeah, for sure.
Now, we have a question from one of our students who's watching us online today. And Scott, this question has your name written all over it. You don't know it yet, but it does, okay? The student would like to know, did you have the opportunity for industry placements during your studies, and how did this help you transition into your chosen field?
Yeah, industry placements were part of the learnings, the course we were on. I was lucky enough to do one at Park Hyatt in Sydney in my first year for F&B, but the second was over in London at the Hyatt Regency Churchill, and that opened up a huge amount of doors for me, not just professionally, personally as well. I've been back over to Europe since then and met with them and connected, but providing opportunities for my network over in London. I've used those connections to then get students jobs overseas. It's like a kind of a weird connection that we've all had together. But yeah, the industry, the placements have proven so beneficial because, I've taken learnings from there to bring into my everyday, and, Sofitel stepping up the luxury and increasing that kind of level of service. I've referred back to what we used to do in London, being such a 5-star establishment, and brought that into the big hotel aspect. And I think the industry placements are so imperative to take advantage of. I think people see it as just like a casual job, 6 months, tick a box, move on. But those are where you build the real life connections. And, I then, from my Park Hyatt job, I stayed there for 7 years past, while studying and then past studying. So it set me up for the career that I have today and provided the opportunities and teachings for me. So don't underestimate that 6-month period, and like Angie said, if you get an opportunity, just take it. I think if it's a 3-week internship, if it's a casual job, it's definitely worth it.
Somebody else. was there an industry? Did you, Emma, for instance, do an industry placement?
Like an internship?
An internship?
Yeah, yeah, we did, yeah. So we also have that as a sort of a subject or a course that you do, I think it was for 2 months, twice a week or 3 times a week. And it's just so important, like you connect with their connections and you actually do a real project, not just a assignment anymore. So it's so important that it really gives you that life experience.
Did you find industry or internships and industry placement useful in the context of, well, this is really the foundation of where my career potentially could start, and I can leverage this placement once I graduate? And certainly I'm aware there are quite a lot of graduates that go back and work for people they were working for during their placements or internships. Was that, Scott, for instance, for yourself, was that similar or?
Yeah, you're in the industry. That's what you study to do. So when you get an internship or a placement, that's what you're going to be doing for the next 20, 25 years. So it's so important to really soak yourself and immerse yourself in those experiences, because it also allows you the opportunity to see if it is what you want to do. And if you don't, then you go down a different path. And again, those doors still open up for you with your fundamental learnings. But yeah, it's definitely important.
Right. Thank you. Now, I saw another question over in the room. I think the white jacket. Black jacket. Thank you.
Was there someone else?
No, please.
My name's Jennifer and I'm studying interior design. So I guess, Emma, my question is more directed to you. Apologies to other industry students here, but maybe someone else can chime in if it's relevant. But I guess you guys touched on LinkedIn and how that was important. Are there any other social media platforms that you think it would be important to sort of create a presence for yourself, like Instagram or Pinterest?
Well, in terms of interior design, so there's a Facebook group for all the interior designers at Billy Blue. I think that one is really helpful because everyone's sort of sharing if there's an internship or a job ad going on, and also if you need help from another student. So definitely connect on that one. It's super helpful. And otherwise, I guess later on your degree, you will also create a website with all your projects and like a portfolio. So the website and the Facebook group would probably be those 2 tips.
Okay. Anybody else want to respond to that question? Is there anything else to add?
No, I agree with the Facebook group thing. In the natural healthcare industry, there's a few of them. There's like a open sort of naturopathic Facebook group to join, but there are some smaller, I guess, more niche ones that you can get invited into. And the way that you get into those is, connecting with the peers, connecting with professionals in the industry. So definitely online is just as important as, your face-to-face connections.
And I think that leads really nicely into the next question, which again is from a student who's watching us online today. This student sounds like they're getting towards the end of their program, their degree, they're getting ready to graduate and take those first steps into industry. But what they want to know is in the final, weeks, months of their program, what should they be doing to really kickstart their career?
I think start getting your CV ready. If you're really going to go out there and pretty much sell yourself, you've got to have a nice and strong CV there to show whoever it is you're applying to, who you are, what you're about, and then when you show up, be yourself. That's the main thing. Like, don't, it takes a couple of times to be able to rock up to an interview and just be yourself, but, every interview is practice for the job that you land. That's how I see it.
Okay, anybody else?
I guess I got some advice. Just pretty much the same thing, but I guess your resume should be ready when you start your degree. As soon as you start your degree, your resume should be ready. Apart from this, do your research. If you're struggling to find an internship, don't stress about it. There's a lot of competition, and the biggest piece of advice I can give you is do your research, find an organization that you feel like they've got an issue, and build your own internship. Build it. There's no issue for doing that. And the company will be like, oh, okay, that person really want to make a difference and really want to get started. So don't be afraid. I did it personally. I was doing some research, and that was back when I was working a bit in marketing, and I saw a company and said, oh, actually your website is a bit crap. Let's be honest. I said, but I can help you, and I'll make connections with you. That's going to build my skills, and there you go. That's how I started. So build your own. There's no problem for that, and I think with the pandemic, that really opens the door to do that, and an organisation will receive that pretty well if you're doing it properly.
We've got time for one final question, and this is quite an important question. It comes from another student who's watching us online today. They want to know, in your respective industries and your workplaces, have you seen any substantive changes post-pandemic? So in other words, has your workplace changed as a result of COVID, and what does that change look like?
I'll go first.
So,
I'm fine.
Angie.
My workplace has definitely changed. So being a voice teacher, we had to completely go to online. So for those who had to do uni on Zoom and all that, you know how difficult that is. Try singing to a computer screen and then listening on the other end and giving them feedback. So that was a little bit tricky. And post-COVID, we still use those. So while it was tricky, it opened a lot of doors for teaching that I didn't realise existed. So Zoom, yeah, I was never let's get on the computer screen and look at ourselves for half an hour. But Zoom has just, taken off and made my job actually a lot easier. So when people are in isolation because other family members are sick or anything, people don't have to miss out. So we're not losing our education. But yeah, that was the hardest thing. Obviously, people's mental health would go down, COVID, confidence levels, but being able to still connect during COVID was really beneficial, and something that I will take as a win from COVID, being able to still use that now.
Anybody else?
No, I agree with the webinar sort of like online platform. That's definitely still something that's going on. But I guess a different aspect in my company anyway is that a lot of projects that were sort of like rolling along previously, pre-pandemic, a lot of things have had to stop. A lot of things have had to scale down. A lot of things have had to shift in the way that we're tackling them. And a lot of the people have had to change alongside that as well. And so we've had to be quite, I guess, agile in the way that we work, not only because of, working from home, going to the office every now and again, but in terms of our jobs, basically, a lot of things had changed, and it's only now that things are sort of like ramping back up again, and it's kind of knowing, long term, things are going to be okay. But for now, things might be a little bit challenging. Things might be a little bit shaky. Things might just change all of a sudden. But it's knowing that, it will get better.
I think what has been really pleasing to come out of the workplace, and I'm hearing this more and more, so please correct me if I'm wrong, is a focus on wellness. And I think that is so critical, and I think more and more organisations, I know here at Torrens, we are talking about wellness an awful lot, and talking to my hotel colleagues, they're having the same discussions. It was interesting, the other day I was talking to our Professor of Tourism, Catherine Koo, and I was talking about work-life balance. She said, no, that's not the right equation anymore. You've got to start talking about life-work balance, because that really is after post-pandemic. It's the focus on life and balancing that with work, not the other way around. I thought that was really wise advice. But then when I hear some of these conversations coming out of the workplace, it is just inspiring to hear now we are so more focused on employee wellness. So that's really pleasing to hear. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We could do this for the rest of the afternoon. It's been such an interesting conversation. I'm dying to hear more about your achievements and what you're doing in your respective industries. But look, on behalf of all of us at Torrens University Australia, I can't thank you enough for giving up your time this afternoon, for your motivational words and advice for our current students. And I know they're going to take them on board because I'm certainly going to be encouraging them to do so. But again, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give a big hand to our panel this afternoon? Well, that's a wrap for our Industry Connect at Torrens University for 2022. An enormous thank you to all of our incredible industry speakers today. If you missed the keynote session with Dr. Daniel Knorr, founder of Streetside Medics and the 2022 Young Australian of the Year, you can catch up on that by heading to the stream on our Torrens University Facebook page. And again, back to the socials, very important. Thank you also to the engagement team for pulling this event together, and all the support from the rest of the team at Torrens University, Think Education and Media Design School. I know our students very much appreciate your effort. And of course, a huge thank you to every student, alumni and industry partner who participated in today's event. Thank you for interacting, engaging and making the most of this opportunity. But most importantly, the employability support doesn't stop there. We are all committed to ensuring all of our students and are industry immersed as part of your studies, and you are set up with all the skills and knowledge you need to lead a fulfilling career that you can love and also make a positive difference in the lives of others. Visit the Student Hub to check out all the resources available to you, including the Smart Skills, Soft Skills, digital badges, which are available free to every one of our students to keep getting your career ready. Keep checking Careers Connect for industry placements and job opportunities. Access our library services and your success coaches. And again, we heard this afternoon from our panel how important connectivity with the success coaches are for your future careers. Our success coaches continually run workshops around employability, and it's a very good opportunity now to engage with the success coaches. So again, thank you very much to all that participated in 2022 Careers Connect, and we look forward to doing this again very soon. Thank you.